What you will learn in this section. In this section, you will explore Plato's powerful vision of the soul, divided into reason, spirit, and desire, and how its harmony is the true origin of justice. How injustice begins not in society, but in the soul, through imbalance, weakness, and misdirected passions. Aristotle's ethics of habit and why virtue must be practiced, not just believed. How the Greeks saw education as the training of the soul, and philosophy as a medicine for moral sickness. The danger of the diseased soul, prideful, greedy, unrestrained, and why such souls threaten the survival of any civilization. And most importantly, why the real foundation of politics is not power, but the character of the soul. This section builds a bridge between the soul and the city. If we want to change the world outside, we must first govern the world within. Welcome back. In the last section, we explored how the soul stood at the center of Greek thinking, from the poetic insights of Herodotus, to the warnings of Thucydides, to the moral leadership of Pericles, and finally, to the awakening of philosophical inquiry in Socrates. We learned that justice is not only a political arrangement, but a moral harmony, one that begins within the human soul. In this section, we go deeper. We follow the legacy of Socrates into the teachings of his greatest students, Plato and Aristotle, and discover how they built a philosophy of virtue that still speaks to us today. What is a just soul? How does it shape a just city? And why is character more powerful than law? These questions are not just ancient, they are urgent, because without inner justice, there can be no outer peace. Let us begin. Section 4. Justice, Virtue, and the Moral Soul. Key topics we will explore. Introduction. Justice, Virtue, and Moral Soul. 1. The structure of the soul. Reason, spirit, and desire. Plato's model of the inner self. 2. The challenge of inner justice. Why the struggle for justice begins within. 3. Aristotle and the ethics of habit. How virtue is built through practice and judgment. 4. The diseased soul. What happens when virtue fails, and why it destroys societies. 5. Education and the care of the soul. The Greek ideal of moral formation through paideia. 6. From ethics to politics. How the soul shapes the city, and why character matters most. 7. Conclusion. The soul shapes the city. From personal virtue to civic justice and the true roots of political order. Before we begin, let me introduce your instructor. Soichi Nakamura is a political philosopher and the founder of LAFE, Liberal Arts for Everyone, a best-selling author in Japan. His work has reached readers across cultures and continents, uniting ancient wisdom with modern purpose. Educated in the Ivy League tradition, he brings together the spirit of Socrates with the moral clarity of Plato, the practical insight of Aristotle, and the universal love of Christ. He teaches that justice is not a theory, but a way of living through virtue, balance, and care for the soul. And through LAFE, he shares this message with learners around the world, not as an academic ideal, but as a call to restore peace within ourselves and within society. Now, let us hear directly from Soichi Nakamura.
Welcome, I'm Soichi Nakamura. In this section, we turn to two of the greatest thinkers in Western history, Plato and Aristotle, and explore how their philosophy offers not just ideas, but tools for building a just soul and a just society. Let me remind you of a question raised at the very beginning of this course. Is justice just a social contract? a compromise between fear and power. This was the challenge posed by Plato's brothers, Adimantus and Glaucon, a question that still haunts our modern world. If you've come this far, you already sense that justice must be more than that. You've seen how Herodotus, Thucydides, Pericles and Socrates all wrestled with this same dilemma. And now we take the next step. We ask, how do we train the soul to be just? What kind of habits build character? What kind of education can form virtue? Plato and Aristotle believed that we cannot create a just world until we understand and govern the world within us. This is not just theory. It is the beginning of moral leadership, because when the soul loses harmony, so does the city, and when the soul is healed, society can follow. Let us study their wisdom, not as history, but as a living guide to who we must become. What makes a human soul virtuous? To the ancient Greeks and Romans, this was not a matter of opinion, but the foundation of civilization itself. They believed that no city could be just unless its people were governed by virtue. But what then is virtue? The answer lies in four enduring ideals: wisdom, courage, temperance and justice, known as the four cardinal virtues. These were not just personal qualities. They were seen as the essential pillars of a harmonious soul, and therefore of a just society. Justice is doing one's own work and not meddling with what is not one's own. Plato, The Republic. Plato taught that the soul has three parts: reason, which seeks truth and wisdom; spirit, which fuels courage and ambition; desire, which longs for pleasure and gain. A just soul, like a just city, is one in which these elements are rightly ordered. Reason leads, spirit supports, desire follows. His student Aristotle continued this path. For him, virtue was not a gift, but a habit, shaped through practice, reflection, and right judgment. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Aristotle. Together, Plato and Aristotle gave the West a revolutionary idea, that the health of the soul determines the health of the state, that justice begins not with law, but with the inner life. This is where our journey begins. What is the soul made of? To Plato, the human soul was not a single force, but a complex harmony of three distinct parts. At the top is reason, the part that seeks truth, knowledge, and the greater good. Then comes spirit, the seat of ambition, pride, and courage. It gives us energy, drive, and loyalty, and defends reason. At the base is desire, the longing for pleasure, wealth, and bodily needs. For a soul to be just, Plato taught, each part must play its proper role. Desire must be tamed by spirit, spirit must be guided by reason, and reason must seek what is truly good. In the just man, each part of the soul performs its own task. Plato, The Republic. Plato believed the soul and the city mirror each other. In a city, there are rulers, guardians, and producers. In the soul, there is reason, spirit, and desire. When each part fulfills its role, justice emerges. But when desire overpowers reason, or spirit turns to pride, the soul falls into chaos, and so does the city. For Plato, justice is not just a social system, it is a moral order, first and foremost, within the soul. Where does justice begin? Not in laws. Not in courts. Not even in cities. Plato taught that justice begins in the soul. To be just is to be in inner harmony. Reason must lead. Spirit must support. Our desire must follow. But this harmony is not easy to achieve. The soul is not peaceful by nature. It is pulled in many directions. Desire craves comfort, pleasure, and excess. Spirit seeks honor, pride, and dominance. Reason longs for truth and for the good of the whole. There are many strange and wild beasts within us. Plato, Phaedrus. This is why justice is not only a political idea, it is a personal struggle, a battle within the self. True justice requires self-mastery, not by crushing desire, but by educating and rightly ordering the soul. Because when reason is ignored, when spirit serves pride, when desire takes command, the result is tyranny. First in the soul, then in the city. Plato warned, no society can stay free if its people cannot rule themselves. How virtue is built through practice and judgment. For Aristotle, virtue was not a matter of theory or belief, but of repeated action. He taught that character is not something we are born with, but something we build, day by day, through habit. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Aristotle, Nicomachean Ethics. Virtue must be cultivated through disciplined effort, through choices, through reflection, and through living well even when it is difficult. Aristotle emphasized the golden mean, the idea that every virtue lies between two extremes. Courage lies between recklessness and cowardice. Generosity lies between wastefulness and stinginess. Temperance lies between indulgence and insensibility. But how do we know the right balance in real life? That's where we need phronesis, practical wisdom. It is the ability to judge rightly, to do the right thing in the right way at the right time. Virtue makes the goal right, but phronesis makes the means right. Aristotle, Nicomachean Ethics. In Aristotle's view, virtue is not just moral knowledge, it is moral skill. And when enough people cultivate this skill, a virtuous society becomes possible, not by force, but by the habit of good lives. What happens when virtue fails, and why it destroys societies. What happens when virtue is lost? For Plato and Aristotle, the answer was clear. The soul becomes disordered and diseased, and with it, so does the society it inhabits. When reason no longer governs, when spirit turns into pride, and when desire takes control, justice disappears, replaced by greed, ambition, and tyranny. Injustice is a kind of disease of the soul. Plato, Republic. The diseased soul is always restless. It seeks pleasure, but finds no peace. It craves freedom, but shirks responsibility. It chases power, but lacks purpose. Aristotle warned that character is destiny. Bad choices form bad habits form bad lives, and bad lives build broken communities. As a man is, so he sees. As the character, so the choice. Aristotle. A sick soul does not suffer alone. It infects others. Leaders without virtue bring ruin to nations. Citizens without discipline undermine freedom. Societies without justice collapse, not suddenly, but inevitably. This is why the Greeks believed that philosophy was not a luxury, but a medicine for the soul. Without moral healing, no political reform can last. The Greek ideal of moral formation through paideia. How do we heal the soul? The ancient Greeks believed the answer was not information, but formation. They called it paideia, a lifelong process of shaping character through philosophy, poetry, music, and dialogue. For them, education was not about skills or credentials. It was about turning the soul toward what is true, good, and beautiful. The object of education is to teach us to love what is beautiful. Plato, Laws. This transformation required more than reading. It demanded discipline, reflection, and the company of noble minds. Philosophy was not a subject. It was a way of life. Education meant guiding the soul away from ignorance and toward wisdom, virtue, and love. Plato described it as a turning of the inner eye, from shadows and illusions to the light of truth. Aristotle emphasized the role of community. Good laws, good customs, good teachers, these were the soil in which virtue could grow. The roots of education are bitter, but the fruit is sweet. Aristotle. The care of the soul, they believed, was the highest duty, for parents, for teachers, for leaders, because when the soul is nurtured, the city is made strong, but when the soul is neglected, both soul and state decay, quietly and then all at once. How the soul shapes the city and why character matters most. What makes a city just? Plato's answer was bold. Only when its people are just. Only when their souls are rightly ordered, with reason in command, spirit disciplined, and desire restrained. He saw the city as a mirror of the soul. In both, justice means that each part does its proper work. Rulers guided by wisdom, guardians fueled by courage, producers moderated by temperance. Until philosophers rule as kings, there can be no rest from evils for cities. Plato, Republic. For Plato, political justice begins with moral clarity. No law can save a city whose people have lost their souls. Aristotle agreed, but grounded his vision in daily life. Politics for him was not the pursuit of power, but the practice of virtue in community. The city exists not only to live, but to live well. Aristotle, Politics. The true purpose of politics, he wrote, is not wealth or security, but the cultivation of the good life. A just city is built not on fear, but on moral formation. Its laws shape character. Its customs form conscience. Its citizens grow in both freedom and responsibility. Justice in this vision is not the final goal of politics. It is where politics must begin, because only the soul can make a city strong, and only virtue can make it free. From personal virtue to civic justice, and the true roots of political order. We've travelled from the structure of the soul to the structure of society, and seen how the two reflect one another. Plato taught that justice begins within. When reason rules, spirit supports, and desire obeys. Aristotle taught that virtue is not a theory, but a practice, a habit, a way of living. And both believed only a soul that is well governed can help build a city that is just. So the real foundation of politics is not law or force or wealth, but character. The Greeks called this the care of the soul. The Romans called it civic virtue. Today, we call it leadership. What kind of leaders and what kind of citizens will shape the world we live in? The next section turns to this question.
Key takeaways, Section 4. Justice, virtue, and the moral soul. A justice begins within. For Plato and Aristotle, true justice arises from the harmony of reason, spirit, and desire within the soul. A virtue is not inherited, it is practiced. Aristotle emphasized that character is built through daily choices and disciplined habit, not merely beliefs. The soul and the city mirror one another. A just society can only be sustained by just individuals. Politics is an expression of collective character. Moral failure is a kind of disease. When the soul loses order, when pride, greed, and desire take control, both the person and the society suffer. Education is soul care. The Greeks saw education, paideia, as the moral and intellectual formation of the person, essential to a just society. Leadership is rooted in virtue. The ancient world taught that the best rulers are not those with the most power, but those with the most inner balance. A justice is a way of life. It is not merely a system of rules, but a form of harmony, cultivated one soul at a time. Justice is not something we demand from the outside. It is something we build from within. Plato gave us the model. Aristotle gave us the tools, but it is up to us now to live by them. When we practice the virtues, wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice, we become more than individuals. We become the foundation of a better world. But even virtue, as noble as it is, does not complete the soul. Without love, a love that transcends pride, borders, and belief, virtue remains incomplete. In the next section, we explore this deeper power, the divine love that fulfills justice and transforms the soul from harmony to grace. Hello again. Before you move on, please take a moment to complete the LAFE moral gravity checklist attached to this section. This is not just another worksheet. It's a mirror, reflecting the shape of your soul. Once you've answered the questions, upload both the checklist and this PDF to your AI assistant, like ChatGPT. Then simply ask, can you help me reflect on this? What virtues stand out? Where can I grow? Because this course is not just about learning. It's about restructuring your inner world into what we call a genius mode. You're learning to think, feel, and act with clarity, just like the wisest of the ancients. And before we move on to the next chapter, here's something to consider. Even children or intelligent animals have a basic sense of fairness, of what's cheating and what's not. But this primitive sense of justice, based on feelings like envy or resentment, is exactly what Glaucon and Adeimantus warned us about. It leads to a justice of social contracts, rooted in fear, suspicion, and compromise. And that, sadly, is what defines much of our world today. But it doesn't have to be that way. By developing true inner justice, we can build something higher. And now, you're ready to meet your own Socrates, a true guide who listens, questions, and helps you grow. That guide is waiting inside your AI. So, whenever you're ready, begin.